So good evening. You have Eric Lately here, and I have Miss Remy Hassett.
Hey there.
And we are going to do our first journal. So, a little bit about um, myself and Miss Hassett. We developed a relationship 2 years ago when I first started working at Thorough High School. She has been such a big help, such a big support. And so it was just my honor to have her help me achieve my goals at KSU. And so right now I'm going to give the mic to Miss Hassett. She's just going to talk about herself, background, and let you know. She's just going to give you information about herself.
Yes. So like Mr. Lately said, I'm Ms. Hassett. This is year 8 for me at Thurl High School. I've been teaching social studies, whether that has been regular U.S. history, AP U.S. history, or IB history of the Americas. I've also taught a collection of other courses, including yearbook and SAT prep and IB personal and professional skills, PPS. Prior to teaching at Thurl High School, I taught 9th grade biology at a charter school in Boston. So kind of all over the place. What was the second question that was on there?
You did your background.
I did my background. My tech. So I feel like I'm pretty good at integrating technology on a daily basis in terms of things like using like Waygrounds, Kahoot, Bluekit for like engaging gamified reviews. I try to incorporate videos and things like that into class regularly, but I can struggle sometimes with going beyond just like putting classwork on Google Classroom. So trying to come up with other ways to do that, particularly with the free response questions that are on the AP exam, because last time I taught AP, it was pre-pandemic, and the AP class was content-wise the same, but in terms of how the exam is delivered is completely different. So learning how to teach my AP class tailored to preparing for a digital exam instead of an exam on paper, and figuring out strategies to teach writing on computer as opposed to on paper, how we learned it back in the day.
Okay. You want to talk a little bit about the goal that you want to have or meet as far as the DBQ and LEQ?
Yeah, so my goal is just to do more like incorporating the work for LEQs and DBQs into the class, the long essay question, the document-based question, particularly doing more like work to scaffold the process for my students, and again to have that done digitally and teaching students how to like read the documents on a computer, how to annotate the documents on a computer instead of like old school on paper with a pen.
Okay, and so now, thank you, Ms. Hassett, for giving that lovely intro. I am now going to segue into my assessment and my evaluation of Ms. Hassett's class. And so as I assess her goal, these are some of the things that I kind of just picked up on during my assessment. I identified several strengths that Ms. Hassett has. Ms. Hassett demonstrates strong content knowledge and effectively contextualize historical events. Her lessons are well organized, and her students were exposed to a lot of rigorous material. Ms. Hassett does a very good job at letting her students know that as AP students, you are the salt of the school, and so always be expected to have these rigorous assessments and assignments, because it is to prepare you for college and for 21st century learning. And so what I would like to incorporate to assist Ms. Hassett to reaching that goal, I will introduce a more focused goal centered around improving student performance in historical arguments with writing as far as the LEQ and the DBQs. We both will collaborate on strengthening the use of claim, evidence, and reasoning. Again, this is, although I am kind of evaluating and assessing Ms. Hassett, she is also doing the same thing for me as well. I am a new teacher. I am new in this program, and so I need to be very careful, not really much careful, but just be very wary that other teachers may have information that I could need or that I could use. So I don't want this just to be a video of me just telling her what to do, but this is also a video to show that we're both learning from each other. And we also, in addition to helping with the claim, evidence, and reasoning, we want to work on scaffolding documents analysis. We will also collaborate to set measurable short-term goals. For example, we both agreed that we need to increase the percentage of students who can write a defensible thesis and support it with relevant evidence. So 3 practical coaching strategies that we picked up as we worked alongside each other. One of those strategies is identify. I worked alongside Ms. Hassett to identify meaningful goals for specific lessons. This involved analyzing a lot of student data, discussing challenges, and setting measurable targets for improvement. Because we both can understand, or we both do understand, that data drives instruction, and so that is always needed. Another strategy that we picked up on is just simply learning. There are times where I've had to introduce research-based strategies to Ms. Hassett, and she did the same. And we did that so we can meet those goals. This would include modeling and sharing and resources and explaining instructional practices. I know one instructional practice that we do both use is the I do, we do practice, especially when we want to analyze data and images. And a third strategy is just simply dialogue. More than often, me and Ms. Hassett would just have open, reflective conversations about the lessons, about the targets, about the data, etc., etc. And this has dramatically increased our partnership. Respect collaboration rather than top-down evaluation. So when we talk to each other, it's not in a sense that we are evaluating. We want to just make sure we evaluate, but we want to build that connection and that relationship and that partnership, because we both understand that we are both in the same classes, we're both teaching the same material, and we need to just learn from each other. In terms of skill, effectiveness, and changes, one change that I witnessed when I did this observation and this assessment was structuring the lesson primarily on the learning target. Oftentimes we become so excited to teach history and we become very overzealous, and that's fine as long as the students can demonstrate mastery by grasping a deeper context of the learning target. And so Ms. Hassett and I have decided to have the students to write down the learning target and reference the learning target in the closings as improve the students' ability to understand the lesson. So as long as we have the students to not just look at it, but to also write it and to refer back to it when they're doing their assessments and when they're doing their closing, it just kind of helps the information stick to the students. Another skill and effective change that we did was just using AP Classroom specifically as a daily formative assessment. We oftentimes rely on outside resources that don't necessarily model the AP format. And so, for example, it's okay to use fill in the blank and it's okay to use matching, but we have to keep in mind that matching and fill in the blank will not be on AP exams. On the AP exam, you're going to have multiple choice, you're going to have short answer, you're going to have DBQs, and you're going to have essay as formats on the AP exam. We should continue to use multiple choice, short answer, and document-based questions, again, because they are located on the exam. This is what the students is going to be assessed over. Another effective skill and change that we did have was note-taking. AP students should use a different approach when taking notes. It should be very different from general ed students. You typically would see in a general ed class teachers referring to the fill-in-the-blank notes. You might want to change that for AP. What we found to be very useful at Thurl High School and teaching AP is using a Cornell note style diagram where you would have terminology on the left side of the paper, and on the right side of that terminology you would have the students not only just write the definition but write the significance of that word, and then at the very bottom you have a portion where the student can fill out a summary. And so we want to you want to differentiate note taking between general ed and your AP students. And while we have this AP students, that is a like a staple for our class. Like that's going to be the example of how we write notes. Challenges faced by a coach. So one challenge that I faced, especially when observing and assessing Ms. Hassett, is coaching a teacher who's already experienced. So again, at the beginning of the video, she stated that she has been in education, has been teaching a little over 8 to 9 years. That's also the same time that I've been teaching. And so coming up to her and having her as a mentee teacher, even for myself, can be a little intimidating because she knows a lot of information. She's like a walking dictionary. She has a number of resources that she can go to galore. And so when you are talking or having dialogue with a teacher who has that type of experience, you typically kind of, I wouldn't really say struggle, but it's just kind of different because you know as much as she do and she knows as much as you, if not more. And so that's just one of the challenges that I faced when assessing my mentee teacher. The second challenge is the fear of judgment. I don't know what she thinks when it comes to me coming to her and telling her some things that I've seen in her lesson that she may need to improve on, or some things that she may want to look at. And then the same thing for me. I don't know what she's thinking. And, she could be thinking, well, why is he telling me this? This is something that I've already practiced, or this is something that I already know, etc., etc. And you just got to keep yourself, and you remind yourself that evaluations doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that you may have something, or you didn't see something that I saw, and vice versa. And I just want to kind of bring it to your attention. And then the last challenge faced by the coach is one size fits all. With that, you just have to know to be flexible. We already know that we all have different teaching styles, and we can get very used to teaching a certain style and things like that. But you just have to know that once one shoe does not fit all, you have to be more flexible. There are always other ways to teach a lesson, or to instruct a class or lesson. It's not just one method, it's many methods. So just stay flexible. I have reached my limit. This is 14 minutes, and I'm going to stop.